black people, we taught them how to talk, how to read, and literally how to walk on two legs. They were walking on all fours like monkeys. So now, white people were created in order to bring a certain negative polarity to the planet Earth for 6,000 years. And this will come into play later on in this bill. So now, we at 2086 BC. Now the Caucasian has now been on our planet for 2,000 years. From 4086 BC to 2086 BC. Now they were created to cause confusion and bring chaos and bring a certain negative polarity into the world for 6,000 years, because black people, we were going through a universal spiritual karma, you could say. And the Bible actually reveals this. And I'm finna grab my Bible right now. Revelations chapter 20 verse 7. You see me going to it. Hold on one second. Chapter 20 verse 7. Where it go? Chapter 20 verse 7 in the Bible. I'm about to read it. It says, And when the thousand year expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go to deceive the nations which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, to number whom is the sand of the sea. Satan, remember, comes from the Arabic word which means shaitan, which means white, weak, and wicked. So when white people came out them Caucasus Mountains, they did exactly what the Bible said they was going to do in their own book, and exactly what they was created to do. Deceive the nations, bring everybody to war, and create chaos. Now, not staying on that as much as I really want to, I'm going to continue. Now we at, according to the destruction of black civilization, it says Egypt was started 3100 BC. I like to think it was started before then, but let's just say 3100 BC, right? The Hyksos, which people refer to as the white people, are the Hyksos are just the white people who are sneaking out of the Caucasus Mountains and coming over to Egypt. The Hyksos come out of the caves, point blank period, and destroy Egypt. But before I get into them destroying Egypt, Plato, Socrates, all your false Greek philosophers were educated by African, Egyptian, intelligent beings, and 100% of Greek philosophy is stolen. Read Stolen Legacies. It will explain this to you thoroughly. Socrates, anybody you want to name, was educated in Egypt. Greece was actually like a baby school or an extension of an African university. The Africans were actually teaching the Greeks, and the Africans actually have a quote where they told the Greeks, you are but children in the knowledge of the mystery. So the Greeks was our sons, and we was teaching them. And white people sit here in college and universities and teach false Greek philosophies, and Socrates and Plato was so great when they learned and stole all of their information from my black ancestors in Egypt. But now, long story short, white people destroy Egypt. They blow the nose off the Sphinx. Later on down the line, as you can see, they chisel faces, they remix stories, and they destroy the very source from which they were taught. But now, jumping over to China real quick, I want to let y'all know in 1500 BC, the first Chinese emperor name was Shang Tang. He created the Shang dynasty. Go look him up. So the yellow man that Yakub grafted, of the original, yes, migrated to China, but it was still inhabited by Africans at this time. So now, getting back to Africa. Now, white people, the Greeks in specifics, Alexander the Great was born 356 BC. He invades Egypt in 323 BC and conquers the libraries and the schools and destroys our knowledge. He tried to further invade Ethiopia, but a black African queen named Queen Candace owned an army that was elite at the time and was unmatched, and he turned that ass around. Long story short, he didn't want no problems. So now, what they did was they couldn't stop African spirituality and the knowledge. They couldn't conquer us without taking our knowledge, and this is why Alexander the Great came for the schools. So now, hundreds of years later, in 325 AD, what Constantine and them did was they said we have to what they did was they shut down and made it illegal to teach any traditional Egyptian practices, and they created a hybrid religion which they all voted on at a vote called the Council of Nicaea, and they created Christianity, which means Christian unity, and they actually voted on which signs and symbols and knowledge that they would use from places that they stole and learned from other places, aka Africa. So now they give you the story of Abraham, when Abraham is really the Pharaoh Akhenaten from Egypt, or Moses, which is really the Pharaoh Thutmose III from Egypt, who was adopted and taken in, so you can say whose mother was Queen Hatshepsut, who was also a pharaoh in Egypt.